In this video, we are going to be taking a look at Todd Chrisley. I have gotten some comments from some of you, and they have sort of hinted that maybe it was his ego, he was a narcissist. Maybe that was what really led to their legal troubles to some extent. Yeah. In this video, we're going to go back, take a look at what their sentence was so we can make sure that we start on the baseline, same level for everyone here. We have a clear understanding of what happened. Next, we want to take a look at some of the comments that you guys have made, because that's what really got me thinking about this as a possible topic. Then I want to go to the sentencing memo where the government talks specifically about what happened with Todd and Lindsay and this sex tape. I think it was Lindsay. Yes, it was Lindsay. Then we're going to take a look at a Prezi, which is kind of like a PowerPoint that takes a look at Todd's ego and has its own sort of comments about that. I was really surprised to even find this out there. Let's start by going back to the Department of Justice website in Georgia. And I tell you, sometimes I'm looking at so many different states that I actually have to look at what state I'm in, because a lot of times it's New York. Lately, it's been South Carolina with some things there. Sometimes I'm pulling up the wrong state. This is out of Georgia. Excuse me. And we want to go back and just sort of make sure what we're talking about here, because this was what sort of instigated some of the comments about, yeah, well, we kind of think he deserved it because he had a lot of ego. He acted like he knew everything. So just for baseline here, remember, Todd and Julie Chrisley have been sentenced to 12 and 7 years respectively in federal prison after a jury convicted them of bank and tax fraud offenses following a nearly 3-week trial. And they talked about how over the course of a decade, they defrauded banks out of tens of millions of dollars. And let me say this before I go further, because here was the other thing about this. As I've been looking back at this, I haven't done this video yet, but this is another video I'm going to do. I want to talk to you about the difference, because somebody did ask me in the comments about supplying documents for refinancing. And as an attorney, I did some real estate closings in the past. I did purchases, and I did quite a few refinancings. And you have to provide a lot of documents for this. As I was actually going through the government's sentencing memo here, they provide a lot of evidence that speaks to why this was not just a case where maybe there were some accounting errors, okay, on the documents that they submitted, or maybe the appraisal didn't quite match. You had 3 that were all over the place or something, or the bank statements didn't, things just, they were just mistakes or miscalculations. This is not what happened here. A preliminary look, as I have just, sort of glanced over it as I've been working through this case, shows that no, they actually went back and made up documents to provide as a part of this scheme. So the government didn't just pull this stuff out of air. So if you're doing a refinance, you're going to refinance your house, you're going to buy a property, and you're now concerned because you don't want to be accused in case there's something wrong with the paperwork. The appraisal comes in one number, and when you did it before, it was another number, and you're now worried that you're going to be accused of, trying to defraud a bank and then pull in all of these other charges. What they did was a little bit different, but I'm going to save that for another video. But I do want to go back. I just wanted to touch on that because somebody else did bring that up in the comments. So in this case, as I scroll down here, you can see here at the very bottom, like I said before, there's all this information here where it says they conspired to defraud community banks in the Atlanta area to obtain more than $36 million in personal loans. They submitted false bank statements, audit reports, personal financial statements. Like, they made this stuff up. That's why this is different from just a typical situation where a person is refinancing and, the documentation, everything that you have to provide, sometimes mistakes happen. Okay. Mistakes are different from doing something intentional. So as you see here, Todd Chrisley, 54, sentenced to 12 years in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Julie Chrisley, 49, she just turned 50, has been sentenced to 7 years, followed by 3 years of supervised release. And eventually, I'm going to make my way to Peter Tarantino so that we can talk more specifically about him. But that's putting everything together so that we're all on the same page about where they are with the sentencing and who got what. So Todd got 12, Julie got 7. Now that we have that, I want to go over to some of the comments. This is the first one. It says, "It sounds to me as if Todd is a narcissist and very controlling. The narrative that his ex-wife couldn't raise their children and Julie and him had to. Why? Has anyone asked his ex-wife what happened? Or did they just go along with Todd's narrative or divorce outcome? Narcissists destroy their ex-wife or partner in court and plan far ahead with a smear campaign, recruiting friends, therapists, or other professionals that have bought into the narcissist narrative and brainwashing the children, parental alienation, and it goes on." So this is what this person is alleging, that his personality had a lot to do with what happened here. Let's go to the next one. "I feel Todd thinks he's smarter than experienced attorneys." And these comments are in response to some of the other videos. And then here's a third one I threw in. "I hate this for Julie and the kids." Notice how the person says for Julie and the kids. It does not include Todd there. "Julie is not a threat to society, guilty or not guilty. I cannot rejoice in the face of another's pain. Heartbroken for this family." Yeah, a lot of us, hate to see anybody in this situation. We understand and we accept that, yes, they made wrong choices, wrong decisions. We're not saying we support that, but what we're saying is, gosh, we hate this happen. If she was part of it, then she's guilty, but I think it was all him. Okay, so I want to stop here for a second before we go to Lindsay's tape, and I want to just sort of talk about gender roles and marital roles and business roles and all of those sorts of things. You guys tell me whether or not you think some of this is playing out in how we think about Todd, because usually in a setting we don't catch it all the time, but we sometimes place our perspective on other people. And so if we bring to the table a traditional gender role, traditional family roles, traditional roles that we expect in the marriage and in the business, we might think that Todd's running everything, that the man's running everything, that the man's in charge, that the man's making more money, that the man's making more decisions. And when we put the man automatically in that position, then won't we automatically presume that then the man is more guilty? The wife we sort of see in the traditional role, being the homemaker, sitting beside the man as the man makes the decisions. And I'm not saying that this was the case. I'm not saying that everyone is buying into this. I'm putting this out there as something to think about as we have these comments and conversations about responsibility and personal responsibility, and how each of us individually is responsible for our own decisions. But in terms of them as a family, a lot of times we saw them together. They both appeared to be very much in charge of their own thinking and, their own ideas about things. Although I didn't watch a lot of the show, I didn't start watching it until later. And I wasn't a person who watched all of the episodes, but I did find it entertaining, like a lot of you. It was a family. Most of us, have people we live with and whatever our family looks like. And so, again, it provides a way to sort of step away from work or whatever it is, and to engage in just some time to sit back and maybe watch another family and grow to like or dislike them. How does that play into how we feel about their guilt or innocence? But I do want to bring up this tape because this is something extra. So if we get to the point where we say, okay, I'm going to be, okay with thinking maybe they were both on the same field. And I haven't even gotten into what they actually did with the actual fraud. I'm just talking about in terms of how we saw them interact on the show and how things sort of played out with that and sort of as the business. This is the government's sentencing memo. We're on page 44 here, but just to show you, the government sentencing memorandum regarding defendants Todd Chrisley and Julie Chrisley. Now let me go down here to this part where they start to talk about the harassment and the sex tape, because one of the issues was, this threatening and intimidation and that sort of thing. So it says here, Todd Chrisley threatened, intimidated, and unlawfully influenced his daughter, Lindsay Chrisley. So now, outside of, remember I just talked about just in terms of like the marital relationship, the man, wife, who's leading the business, who's not, who's sort of following along, those sort of traditional gender roles, however you want to think about it. But now we have like parental and family roles that are coming into play here. And let me scroll down here to the part where it actually talks about it. It says, in this case, Todd Chrisley not only tried to unlawfully influence his daughter, Lindsay Chrisley, he succeeded. After reporting to the FBI and U.S. probation that her father was harassing, intimidating, and attempting to extort her, Lindsay took the stand at trial and testified for her father and stepmother. But on cross-examination, she admitted to the events that led to her appearance in court. Crucially, these facts were all documented in the FBI interview report that had been disclosed to the Chrisleys in discovery. From 2017 to 2019, Lindsay Chrisley was estranged from her father. 2 months before he was indicted, Todd asked Lindsay to meet him in Chattanooga. Lindsay agreed to meet and drove to Chattanooga, believing that her father was going to apologize for their estrangement for the past 2 years. When she arrived at the restaurant where they met, Todd insisted that Lindsay leave her cell phone in the car. Once they were inside, Todd told Lindsay he was about to be indicted and questioned Lindsay's involvement in the investigation. Todd continued to press Lindsay about her involvement, and Lindsay told him that she was sick of him and Chase Chrisley putting out threatening tweets directed at her. Todd told Lindsay that she needed to be careful with Chase because he had a sex tape of Lindsay from an indoor security camera. Todd insisted that the sex tape was real and told Lindsay she needed to be careful. A few weeks later, in July 2019, Lindsay called the FBI National Threat Operations Center and reported that her father was attempting to blackmail her with a supposed sex tape of her because he thought that she was the reason he was under investigation. The FBI case agent subsequently met with Lindsay, where she reported the information above. She also said that in the days leading up to that meeting, Todd had told his sister-in-law that Lindsay was behind all this stuff and that Lindsay was a snake, manipulative, and was going to be sued. And then there's a little bit more here. And it says, lo and behold, at trial, Lindsay took the stand and provided favorable testimony for her parents. So there is this sort of concern about what happened with this sex tape and whether or not, as a parent, now we all know that no family is perfect. No family is perfect. We all come with our, mistakes and idiosyncrasies, and we're just not perfect human beings. We are all a work in progress. But this sort of space where the parent then sort of holds over the child's head, if you don't do this thing, then I'm going to release this sex tape about you. This is not something that ordinarily people do. I know some of you are going to talk in the comments about Kim Kardashian and that sex tape, but that was an entirely different situation, we believe. What is driving Todd here? What is driving him? We know he's trying to stay out of jail. He's trying to make sure that his daughter does not testify against him. So have a conversation with her. But who then threatens to release a sex tape, and what kind of personality type leads you to think that that's the best thing for you to do as a parent over your child? Let's go to this Prezi, because this Prezi, maybe it tells us everything. I don't know. I thought it was very interesting. I did not realize it was even out here until I was doing the research for this. So I was very caught off guard that this thing even existed at all. But we're going to go through it. If you're not familiar with a Prezi, it's sort of like a PowerPoint, but it's made to look a little fancier. So this is the website where I found it, and I literally was just doing a search to find out thoughts around Todd Chrisley's personality type, ego, narcissism, all of those sorts of things. And then we had this Prezi, which, like I said, is like a PowerPoint, and it says Todd Chrisley personality disorders. You guys, I was not expecting this at all. Now let's see if I can follow this without messing all of this up, and hopefully I can get this right here. So we have the background here, and this is Todd Chrisley grew up in a small town in South Carolina. After years of hard work and dedication, Todd built Chrisley and Company, his retail business, while still reflecting the traditional values and principles he was raised with. And then let's go over here to this one. And this is initial findings, normal behaviors and abnormal behaviors. And I don't know who this person is who put this together. All credit to them, because I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. But if you look over here, they talk about some of the initial findings. Loving, helps his family, protective, wants the best for his family, religious, traditional, strives for perfection, humorous, and good parenting. So most of us would probably agree that when you watch the show, you saw a lot of this whole family thing, family sticking together. I'm not going to let you do anything to hurt my family. I want the best for my family. I'm going to give them whatever it takes. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they have the best. This was definitely a lot of what was seen in his personality and on the show. Then there is this other column here that says initial findings, abnormal behaviors, controlling, compulsive, narcissistic, stalking, brutal, worrisome, think kids lie, center of attention. Okay, so some of these things are not necessarily abnormal. I don't know that worrisome is abnormal. I don't think worrisome is abnormal. Center of attention, plenty of people want to be the center of attention sometimes. I don't know, that as it's listed here, I guess they're trying to say if you do enough of it, then it becomes abnormal. But I don't think that's necessarily the abnormal part. The abnormal part is when it goes to this level of being compulsive and the narcissism and the stalking, like this controlling nature. I need to be the one to make the decisions. And this, to some extent, could have played into or been useful for Julie getting less time, because it's like he's controlling and compulsive and narcissistic. So he really pushed for us to do this. That would have been something that I, could have seen to be helpful. Now on this one, they actually sort of break down some of the obsessive compulsive personality disorders. They say symptoms. Again, and this is me reading this is not mine. Symptoms: obsessive compulsive controlling stalking, and then evidence: stalks children and obsessive tendencies. Now I'm not going to open this video up, but I did take a look at it, and it is from the episode where he follows Julie. Oops, I meant Savannah. As she's out with a boyfriend and he's in the vehicle. It looks like maybe it's a rainy day or something like that. But he's following her and he's saying something about, he wants to make sure she's safe. And in his mind, this is what a father does. A father protects his children, and especially his daughter, because that he comes from this sort of traditional role model, personality and upbringing, thinking this is what I'm supposed to do. And a lot of people feel that way as parents, not just as a father, but as parents. You have children, you think, I am going to protect my child. Julie then says somewhere in that video, okay, what you were doing was stalking though. So she thinks this is a bit much, but I know plenty of parents now. There are things I follow up on. I know parents now who take it to another level because we're not in the same time period we were 30, 40, 50 years ago. You have to have, because things happen differently now, you have to do things differently now. You can't just take some of these things for granted. You have to follow up and make sure that your children are in safe spaces. You can't just take this stuff for granted. Did he go too far? Was that harassment? Julie was saying that it was harassment. Let's go back to the Prezi. So evidence: stalks children, obsessive tendencies. Like I said before, this is in this video here that you can go to check out to see if you think, that that's evidence of that. Then next up, we have the histrionic personality disorder. Okay, symptoms: exaggerated emotion, overvalues relationships, inappropriate behavior, physical appearance as attention. Evidence: uses physical appearance. Let me talk about this one just a little bit. And again, this is not my background. I'm an attorney. I wonder to what extent this even could have been used as part of his defense. I don't know, like I said, I've seen some of the documents that and some of the evidence that the government had. I don't know that this would have been helpful. Okay, overvalues relationships, but basically it's this exaggerated emotion. But how much of that, like we need a closer relationship here. How much of that was for the cameras? Okay, most reality TV shows are scripted to some extent. So it's not that they necessarily know every single thing that they're going to say, but they know how everything is going to play out. And there's an understanding of what people are going to say. It makes for boring TV if you don't have people who are willing to show exaggerated emotion. Let's just be honest here. TV and reality TV is about putting people there and seeing people react to what's going on around them. Everything pretty much on reality TV is exaggerated, right? So I don't know that you can look at his show and look at his life as a reality TV person and say, oh, well, look at how exaggerated his emotions were. Look at all of this histrionic behavior, and necessarily then frame that and use the show as a basis for making some sort of evaluation about his personality. You do have to take that into context, I think. I don't think you can leave that part out, but maybe it's coming and we just haven't gotten there yet. So let's go to the next one and see what the next one says. Paranoid personality disorder. Symptoms: suspicious, argumentative, sees self as rational, devious, and the evidence is suspicious and argumentative. Now, some people might say, and I should go back to the beginning because I think this was put together in 2016. Some people might say this is actually foreshadowing what happened with the government. Like, this person picked it all up by watching the episodes, by doing the research and sitting down and saying, here's what I'm seeing. And therefore I can predict that if this is carried on into other aspects of the person's life, that there are likely some things that the person has done that may get them in trouble. Because look at some of the words that are used. So the person themselves suspicious, and a lot of times if you're suspicious, it's usually because you've done things that, and so you understand that other people do things too. Devious, sees self as rational. So you can see how this person might say, something might be going on in the future. Then we have narcissistic personality disorder. Symptoms: exaggeration, sense of entitlement, arrogant, unlimited success. Evidence: constant attention. And that's what they're saying here. And this was one of the words that was used, I think, in one of the comments, along with ego. So I don't know, like I said before, you have to put it in context of the fact that this was a reality TV show, and it's a TV show. It's designed to get people to watch it and to have conflict. and to have excitement and to have an exaggerated lifestyle and exaggerated people and emotions in order to keep viewers coming back. It helps build a relationship. This whole thing about him caring for his daughters and children and stalking and going to what might be considered an extreme, you might put that in a reality TV show, because if you have parents watching this, they're going to say, yeah, I would have done that for my daughter. I would have gotten in the vehicle and followed them to see where they were going. I want to see who this dude is. I want to see that he's somebody who comes from a good family and is not going to treat my daughter or my son or, my children in a manner that may put them in jeopardy. Most people are going to relate to that. So if you're showing all of this exaggerated stuff, if you're being extreme about it, if you're arrogant about it, if there's some success in your life and other people want to be successful too, they may see you as a way to build a relationship with. Again, it's TV. So are we throwing these personality disorders on him, or were they already there? Or were they there because of the TV show? I don't know. Let's go to the last one, which is anxiety. Well, who doesn't have anxiety every once in a while? Vague danger, uneasiness, panic, OCD, evidence, stress, and OCD. I feel like I'm stressed all the time. I feel like I'm literally stressed all the time. When am I not stressed? When am I not stressed? So this is the whole Prezi here, and you can go to prezi.com, take a look at it. You can see, you can take a look at it and see it. And I'll put the link down below so that you can check it out. Like I said, I'm not sure who this person is. Let me see if I can find out. It says here that it's got like 25 views, and probably 3 of them have been mine in the last hour. Peyton Novak, Thursday, May 5th, 2016. So this was way in advance of the case there. But those are some things to think about. And so then after all this, like I said, after all this person's pulling all of this together. You throw in the fact that they had family dynamics. You throw into the fact that, there may have been some gender roles, marital roles, business roles that we may have put on them. And for us, it may seem like the person, the man, Todd Chrisley, had a lot of ego and a lot of narcissism and a lot of narcissistic tendencies. And maybe some of that would lead us to believe that we're not surprised that this wound up to be the case. Now, this is just a theory. Again, I'm responding to some of the comments that I have seen about this. So let me know your thoughts in the comments again. And don't forget to like the video, and peace.